Hey angels, it is Marita Joyce over at Angela Maternity Services, and I just wanted to go live today to talk about something that I feel is extremely important. So, there is no one in this live. I'm actually doing this live so that I can record this video because my camera is acting up right now. So, here we are. If somebody joins, then I'll let them chime in or ask questions, but I didn't schedule this, so it's just me and you, of course, whoever's watching. So basically, what I want to talk about today is traumatic birth experiences. As a birth and postpartum doula, I meet with lots of women, and throughout their pregnancies, my job is to support them, to make sure that they have everything they need emotionally and physically to have a successful birth. Okay. Whatever that success is for that particular mom, right? Whatever that success is for that particular family, the partner, the mom, whoever is her other support person. My job is to make sure that that mother and that father to be get the birth of their dreams, that their pregnancy fears and things like that are addressed, and to make sure that they get information so that they can make informed decisions. That's kind of in a nutshell what I do as a doula. There's a lot more to it than that, but it's the best way for me to summarize it. And in my journey, in my doula journey, and I'm very passionate about the work I do. I love it. I wouldn't trade it to do anything else. I've done other things, and some of those things I loved, and some of those things I did not love so much. But I really love helping women. I love helping families. So, with that being said, my job requires me to do a lot of talking, but it also requires me to do a lot of listening. And when I'm listening, I'm hearing there's a pattern in the things that I've been hearing lately. And that is I hear a lot of moms saying, the reason I'm hiring you is because my last experience was traumatic. I hear a lot of women saying when I do their birthing plan, I ask them questions. What is your dream birth? What are your fears? And I hear a lot of times, well, so and so told me this, and I'm terribly afraid of that happening to me. Or I don't want something to happen that I don't want to happen. And when I dig deeper into these questions, into these statements about what the fears are, this is one common thing that I've heard is something happened to me that I didn't want to happen to me. Something happened without my consent. So again, I dig deeper because I'm a person that likes to get to the bottom of things because at heart, I'm a problem solver. So my next question is, well, tell me about that. Tell me what happened. When I'm listening to this story, the thought of, well, something happened without my consent. So my next question is, well, did you give your consent? Well, yeah, I gave my consent. Okay. So, why do you feel something happened without your approval? Well, because I didn't know that I could say no. This is what I'm told. I didn't know that I could say no. So that made me think. Today I had a prenatal meeting with one of my clients, and I was asking her about different things, just going down my regular line of questioning. We were creating her birth plan, and she seemed very confident. And while I'm listening to her, I started to think about, wow, I wish a lot more women were this confident. And I wish a lot more women were as sure about what they want. I think a lot more women would have that dream birth that they talk about. And so it got me thinking about talking and having a conversation with women about what does it look like? What does having a dream birth? Because I asked that question like, well, what's your dream birth? what does having a dream birth look like? How does that play out? How do you get the dream birth that you want? Is it really a thing? Is there such thing as a dream birth? Most women perceive birth to be a painful event that you want to get through as quickly as possible, right? You don't dream of it being, you don't dream of it at all. Most women don't dream of it like you do your wedding day or like you do your baby shower or some of the other events that we have in our lives that are just seem to be a dream, literally. You don't necessarily dream of birth because you hear these stories about how painful it is, about how, about how it is that event in your life that you will probably experience the most pain that you've ever experienced in your life. And so we don't dream about it in this mystical and fairy tale like way that a lot of women dream about getting married or meeting their first love. We don't dream about it like that. At least the women I know don't. Okay. So when I asked, when I ask my clients, what's your dream birth? Sometimes they just pause because they're like, what are you talking about? I don't dream of giving birth. Like, what is this lady talking about? Then I give examples. Okay, this is ideally, what a dream birth for me might look like. I might give them an example of what my dream births look like. Some moms know off the bat, oh, I want a water birth. I don't want, any photos until after the baby is born. Like they have it all laid out. They know. But a great majority of mothers don't know, and there are small select few who think are looking at me like I have two heads because they don't think about birth in that way. It's supposed to be this really painful, chaotic experience that we hurry up and we want to hurry up and get through as quickly as possible and then forget about it. So again, as I was thinking about better ways to help mamas and families, I began thinking about, wow, you're asking this question. Do you, what, how are you planning to get these mothers through this? The ones who are not quite sure what that means for them. How are you planning to get them to a point where they can realize that this, yes, this is a real thing. A dream birth is a real thing. And not only is it a real thing, it is something that every woman deserves. Every woman deserves to look back on one of the most monumental times in her life as a dream. Wow, my birth was amazing. And then we have a situation where instead of telling each other these traumatic birth stories, we're telling each other dream birth stories. And we're telling women who haven't had children yet dream birth stories, something for them to look forward to, right? As opposed to something for them to dread or to fear. So, again, that's kind of what got me on this little tangent that I'm on right now with the secret, what I think is the secret. And this is based on talking to many women. This is based on being present at many births. This is based on talking to mothers after they've delivered, asking them, how was this experience for you? This is based on sitting in a room full of doulas and listening to them talk about the reason that they became doulas was because they had traumatic birth experiences. This is an accumulation of all of the experiences that I've had surrounding birth. And I kind of came to the conclusion that one of the most important things that women can do, that we can do for ourselves, is to build strong boundaries. And the reason I say this is because, again, when I'm told that, oh, I hired you because I had a traumatic birth experience, a part of my job is to find out more about that. Why? For one, I want to do everything in my power to make sure that this mom does not have that experience again, especially after she's hired me. Can I control all of the moving pieces of a mother's birth? Absolutely not. But there are things that are in my control. There are things that are in my power. And I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing is not contributing to that or is in some way able to give this mom information or whatever it is that she needs that is within my scope of my doula practice so that she can avoid that or to minimize it, at least. So that is why I go into more questions. And this is why I want to know more about this. So I asked mom, and the pattern that I've seen is that moms will say, well, they did this to me and they didn't ask me. They did this to me without my permission. And I continue to ask more questions. I continue to ask questions. Well, did you sign a consent form? Did you, I want to get into the nitty gritty of it so that I can help them to create a birth plan that will not take them down that same path again. And what I find is the moms will say, oh, yeah, I did sign a consent form. Oh, yes, I did tell that person that they could do a vaginal check. And my question is, okay, so why do you feel like this was traumatic? Because I didn't know that I could say no. This is what I've heard so many times. I didn't know that I could say no. Now, when we are small children, our parents teach us to avoid certain things. And one of the common themes in that is say no. When I was a child, there was a just say no campaign for drugs. And what it taught us is just simply say no. If somebody offers you drugs, you just say no. There is this thing with kids once they reach a certain age and they're trying to get into more of their autonomy. They're still very little, small, almost babies, but they're old enough to talk and they're old enough to know that they don't want something or they don't like something. And for the moms who have children already, you know what I'm about to say. A 2 or 3-year-old will tell you no in a minute, and there is no denying that that's what they mean. Okay? They will tell you no. And I think most of us went through that phase where we would look at an adult who is doing something or saying something that we did not like. And we were very young and very small. And we were very dependent probably on these people to take care of us and to protect us. And yet and still we would look them right in their eyes and we would say, no. And that sometimes that's all we would say. It's just a complete sentence of no. Most times we're young, we don't know about being kind versus being rude. So maybe sometimes our no's are hard no's. Those of you who have small children, you know what I'm talking about. That hard no, that no, kind of, they're almost shouting it at you. And as a parent or an aunt, we can kind of take offense to that when a small child does that to us. And in certain cultures, it's not allowed. You might be told, don't you tell me no. Don't you dare tell me no. That child might be told, if you tell me no again, there's going to be consequences for you saying that. Do not tell me no. But the point I'm making is most of us have done it when we were children. We were able to, at such a young age, at such a place of vulnerability, look at this person who's taking care of us, who's loving us, who's all of the things. But in that moment, when they're doing something that doesn't feel good to us, that doesn't feel right, we could look at them and say, no, no. And so as we develop, I think as women and as we grew and as we were becoming acclimated to what life as a woman looked like, I believe that some of that was tampered down. We were told, being ladylike is about making sure that everyone else is taken care of. Being ladylike is about making sure that you're nice and being kind and being seen as a good person or a good woman. And so A lot of our ability to stand in our power and to say no is muzzled. It is trained out of us. There's a fear in a lot of situations for women in which, we're afraid to say no. We're afraid that there may be physical consequences for saying no, right? And so we find a way to say no in a nice way, and it's a roundabout way, and it's, oh, well, I'm not sure if I want that. Well, I don't know if I really want to do that. Or it's silence, where you're hoping the person reads your mind and knows that you don't want this. And that's not effective. It doesn't help us. It relinquishes our power to someone else. And so, one of the things I do when I'm working with a mom is I make sure from the moment she hires me that she knows that her birth is hers. I don't get to control it, and I don't try to control it. A lot of times I'm asking questions, and the mom will say, well, what do you think I should do? And I say, I don't know. What do you think you should do? Always giving the power back to the mom. And if the mom says, well, I don't know, then I say, okay, here are some options. Here are some things that other women have done. Here are some things that this is what research shows. This is what, if it's something medical, I always send them back to their provider. Say, this is something maybe that you want to have a conversation with your provider about, right? Because it's outside of my scope as a doula. But most of the time, if it's something that is within my scope, I give that mom her power. And I'm constantly doing that throughout the time we're working together. I'm constantly doing that. So by the time my mom is in the birthing suite, by the time she is ready to deliver, her boundaries are pretty strong because she's now been practicing with me, saying what she does and does not want, having the information that she needs to make intelligent decisions, having someone hold a space for her and encourage her, right? And just standing in her own power, standing in her intuition about what she feels is right, standing in what she feels is right in her body, right? Creating a safe space for her to just figure things out. Because sometimes, becoming a mother is information Latin. There's so much to learn. There's so much that goes into it. Sometimes you just need somebody to hold a space for you to not know right now and to give you information and give you time to decide what's best for you and what you need to do. So these are all the things that I do for mothers that I work with the main goal being to make sure that mom understands that her birth is hers. That is hers. She owns that. She owns what's going on with her body. And it is the beginning stages of being able to hold a space and protect another human. It's so important. It is vital because in order for our children to have good boundaries and for them to navigate in this world safely, we are the ones that are given the huge responsibility and the blessing of endowing that to them. And if we don't have it, if we haven't been able to practice it, if it has been muzzled, I think we all have it. It's just hidden somewhere deep down inside of us. And we just need somebody who is able to pull it out, who's able to see us and who's able to help us reach deep down in ourselves and not abandon ourselves. That is the moral of the story, not to abandon yourself and to stay present with yourself and to always honor yourself. I think a lot of the traumatic stories that I hear are the result of us abandoning ourselves. In that moment when we felt deep down, doesn't feel good to me. This is not what I want. We hushed and silenced our own voice for whatever sake, for the sake of being nice, for the sake of not being difficult, for the sake of, well, I don't really know what my options are. Right now, I'm scared, I'm vulnerable, so let me just be a good, nice lady and not cause any problems. And then later, after everything's over, clarity sets in. And now I'm back into my higher mind, because when I was in the throes of labor, I was a bit enraptured with everything that was going on with my body. But now that I'm back in my higher mind, it all comes down on me. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe that I abandoned myself. I cannot believe that I allowed that. And sometimes the guilt and the angst associated with that is what we feel was our traumatic experience. And I do believe that that experience is real, because you go through all of the trauma of it. And so I just was thinking about that today. I was really thinking about, what is my responsibility to mothers? What is my responsibility to moms in terms of um, having a conversation with them about, what are the skills needed to have the dream birth that I want? What are the skills needed to minimize or to avoid traumatic experiences? So many things are not within our control when we're giving birth. It is one of the times in our lives where there's so much happening to our bodies that we can't fully control. But the one thing we can control is our power. We can control what we perceive that we want, and asking for that. We may not always get what we want, but at least we know, I did what I did. I did what I needed to do to protect myself. I did what I needed to do to protect myself emotionally, physically, and I stood in for myself. I did not abandon myself. And I think that comes into play hugely in the postpartum period when we're looking back over that birth. It comes into play hugely. How much power do you feel you had? How were you able to get the things and your needs met in that moment? How much support did I have in that moment? How much support do I have in my postpartum period right now? How am I feeling? How are these emotions? How am I processing these emotions? How are these emotions affecting me? Do I have a birth circle that can engulf me and care for me during this period? All of these things play out in the aftermath of birth, and in us feeling like we had a traumatic experience versus feeling like we had a euphoric experience. And so I prefer my clients to have a euphoric experience. And I'm constantly working and thinking, analyzing situations, and sharpening my craft to make that a reality. My name is MJ. I'm both a birth and postpartum doula. I serve as the state of Florida. I will travel to you if you're somewhere else, but I primarily love working in the sunny state of Florida. And I help moms and I help families to have the birth of their dreams. If you don't know what to expect from my service, I can tell you, expect an angel. That is all. I hope you guys subscribe to my channel, and I will try to do these live streams, or whatever you call these things, as much as possible. And I will see you guys in the next video. You can find my email address under my videos, and please send me an email. I would love to connect with you, give you a free consultation, find out what your dream birth looks like, and do everything in my power to give it to you. I enjoyed you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.